Make-A-Wish employees. What was the most strangest thing a Make-A-Wish kid asked for and actually received? Story 1. My friend's an aquarist, and she told me about one 17-year-old cancer patient who had a wish to smell a sea lion's breath before he died. He had read it was the worst thing ever and was just curious to experience it for some reason. Plus, he liked sea lions, I guess. She was, of course, pretty shocked by the request and said, "Are you sure? I promise you really don't want to smell it. I always make sure to hold my breath if I'm getting that close." But he insisted, and it was arranged. He puked and didn't enjoy it very much. Story 2. A funeral. He knew his parents wouldn't be able to afford one, so he wished to have his funeral paid for. They were able to convince his to make another wish, and he wished for gold lockets for his mom and sister with his initials engraved on them. Edit. His funeral was paid for as well. I believe another nonprofit helped with that. They just really wanted him to have a wish for himself, but all he cared about was his family. Story 3. Friend's son won a spider costume. Not a Spider-Man costume. Spider. It was the day before Halloween. A volunteer stayed up all night and made him the costume. Story 4. I was a Black Hawk pilot in the Army, and we had a Make-A-Wish kid who wanted to fly in an Army helicopter. We had to remove all the seats so we could strap his wheelchair down in the middle of the helicopter, and we flew him around at treetop level, yanking and banking with the doors open for a while. Story 5. My wife worked as a nurse at a children's hospital and cared for a 17-year-old cancer patient whose wish was to meet Wiz Khalifa. He showed up and spent the day. My wife said they went on a walk and came back high as. She said it was a great day for the boy and his family. He passed away a few weeks later. Story 6. After I survived cancer at 17, I was offered a wish. I went to Christmas Island with my family to see the spawning of the red crabs, reckoned to be one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Picture it. 1,000,000 fist-sized red land crabs making their way down to the sea edge to release their eggs into the ocean over a period of just 3 hours or so. The Make-A-Wish volunteers looked horrified as I explained it. And I'm typing this now, so yes, I lived thanks. Edit. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure my wish caught my family a bit off guard too. Story 7. My ex-GF was a Make-A-Wish kid, and she got to be a guest on Avatar, The Last Airbender. She was in the tales of Ba Sing Se. At the end of the tale of Aang, she's the kid that sees her cat in the zoo and says, "Fluffykins, what are you doing down there?" Story 8. I used to know a dude who got sick in high school, and his wish was to see Rocksteady Studios and be in one of their games. The studio was super cool, evidently, and they put him in Arkham Knight as a GCPD officer. Best part of the story is that he recovered and, last I heard, is still doing okay to this day. Story 9. I was a Make-A-Wish kid back in 2017, and my wish was to go see a live brain surgery in Seattle at University of Washington. I loved Grey's Anatomy, I loved Dr. Shepard, and I had brain cancer, so I wanted to see what my doctors kind of saw. What an experience, and learned so much. I was a little neurosurgeon for a day, and the neurosurgeon was playing the Pixies while operating. What a great happy moment I won't forget. They even sent my family from Arizona to Seattle with me to have dinner with me in the Space Needle. Story 10. I heard about a kid a few months back who got to blow up an overpass. It was scheduled for demolition anyways, but they got to push the plunger. Story 11. When I was on a carrier, they flew a kid and his parents out. They routinely fly distinguished visitors, but we thought it was weird there was this kid. They got tours and watched flight ops, but he couldn't fly with us, so they asked us to have dinner with him so he could at least meet pilots and ask questions. It was really humbling when we realized this is what he was there for. He literally wished to just come see what we do and hang it with us. Story 12. I worked at a Lego retail store in the 2000s, and Make-A-Wish approached us for a child with terminal osteosarcoma who wanted to be in the store for a day. Lego unfortunately denied the request, which surprised myself and the rest of the staff because Lego was a pretty great company. Staff decided to honor the request ourselves. We closed the store early on a Sunday, then invited the kid and family in. He had a full run of the store. We collectively paid for like $1,000 worth of toys for him to take home, and just spent the entire evening building WE he wanted. He died a few months later. Story 13. I had a wish when I was 8 due to having leukemia and a bone marrow transplant. My first thought was, meet Bruce Willis. Die Hard was my newly discovered favorite film. But my dad asked if I wanted something that would last like a computer. I always loved playing on the hospital computers, so yay went for that. Best decision ever. I might owe my career to it. I hear Bruce Willis is a bit of a IRL anyway. Edit. I think this was after the BMT, so I was past the worst of it. So I was most likely going to be around to enjoy the thing that will last. Edit 2. In case Bruce Willis reads this, I'm still a massive fan, even after Die Hard 5. Story 14. I worked at a hospice, and we had a wishing program. One of our patients, 24-year-old with brain cancer, wanted to hold a sloth. Apparently, sloths are very nervous creatures, so it's a little tricky to actually hold one. I found a local company that does visits to schools and whatnot who had a sloth. Sloths only about once a week, and the sloth could only travel the day after he pooped, because they get nervous. Any longer than that, and the sloth has stress diarrhea. So basically, we had to wait until the sloth pooped and then set up the visit for the next day. The sloth pooped on Thanksgiving, so we set up the visit for the next morning. The patient was able to hold and pet a very sweet sloth. The patient died about 3 weeks later, and I am very happy I was able to help give her some joy in her final weeks. Edit. Wow, guys! I did not expect this to blow up. Thank you so much for the awards. The hospice I worked at had a special program called Faithful Wishes for any of our patients, regardless of age. As the volunteer coordinator, fulfilling these wishes was part of my job. I do believe there are other nonprofit organizations that grant wishes to adults, but nothing as large as Make-A-Wish. Yes, the sloth was tame and lived in an animal preserve. He would also visit schools and retirement communities, schedule permitting. And yes, I absolutely learned more about sloth bowel movements than I ever wanted to. Story 15. Okay, this is more wholesome than anything, but a girl who was a grade above me had cancer in high school. She graduated and I joined the band my senior year to see this plaque, with her name and face on it from Make-A-Wish. She used her wish to donate new instruments to the school's band, as they were needing new ones. I still know her to this day, and she makes a ton of jokes about cancer that it even freaked out her college roommates. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Story 16. Former employee here. Over half of the wishes are Disney-related, and beyond that they typically fall into a few categories. I wish to travel. I wish to meet. I wish to be. I wish to have. I wish to give. You get the idea. So, I always liked wishes that fell outside of the typical wish categories. One time, there was a boy that wished for the perfect baked potato. I don't know if the wish granters went through with that wish. They may have waited until he was a little older, but I still laugh when I think about it. Volunteers are trained to ensure they are determining the child's one true wish, not mom's wish to go on a cruise, or dad's wish for new tools, etc. A lot of work and thought goes into fulfilling a child's wish. Story 17. Most surprising one to me was the Make-A-Wish kid that got to go on Howard Stern live on air. Howard asked the Make-A-Wish rep what was the wildest request, and she replied, I think we're in the middle of one right here. Haha, pretty dope move by Make-A-Wish. Story 18. I did a children's wish at 17, which is an equivalent charity. I initially asked for tickets to the Victoria's Secret fashion show, or after party. While they found it humorous, I was asked to choose a backup. I went to the Galapagos in the end, so that was pretty sweet. Story 19. Not Make-A-Wish, but my brother got terminal brain cancer when he was 18. He was given 3 to 6 months to live. Back then, his only wish was to be an NFL player. But he was 5'8", all heart. He was just like Rudy in that Notre Dame football movie. He fought it for 6 years. Somewhere around his 22nd birthday, he and I were talking about having something worth living for. I told him it didn't matter what it was, but a vision for the future that he would fight for was important, and encouraged him to find something to give his life to. We went on a vacation soon after that, and because we were broke from medical bills and 4 years of battling cancer as a family, this was a huge deal. We hadn't had a family vacation for a long time. A family friend put us up in their beach house and gave us some money to have a good time there. My brother came alive on the trip. It was so impactful to him that he came home and decided to start a non-profit organization. He called it A Week Away. It was very similar to Make-A-Wish. Terminally sick patients apply and benefit from an all-expenses-paid vacation with their family or group of caregivers. That was a big deal to him to include the family because if you've ever gone through something like that, you know it's not just the patient who suffers and loses their freedom, it's everyone they are close to. He worked his off to start the organization. He formed it and began sending families to places like the Outer Banks and Ocean City and other East Coast beaches. A week before he died, he launched his first big month-long fundraiser. He passed away knowing that he had raised enough to send like 10 families on respite weeks. It was like he was passing the baton off to others who could keep on fighting. The org is still going strong today. If anyone is blessed to have their health in a sweet vacation spot you'd like to donate for occasional use by sick people, all coordinated by an awesome organization, I'd encourage you to reach out to the A Week Away folks. You get to play a part in people's lives like the awesome people helping in these Make-A-Wish stories. Story 20. My brother had cancer when we were in high school. We all got to go to an ice skating rink in NYC and play hockey with some of the New York Rangers. He was a Flyers fan, but what can you do? This wasn't actually his wish, but it was set up by the Make-A-Wish Foundation for all the terminal kids at the hospital, I'm pretty sure. Story 21. There was a Make-A-Wish kid in a class I taught once, and their wish was to tour a pickle factory. Pickles were their all-time favorite food, and they wanted to see how the sausage was made, so to speak. Apparently, Vlasic rose to the occasion in a major way, and she had the time of her life. Story 22. When my son was 3, his Make-A-Wish was to meet Elmo. For a 3-year-old, not that strange, I guess. Sent us to Sesame World in Philly. We get there, and they had no clue he was on a Make-A-Wish trip, but they were great, and he met Elmo. Story 23. I remember when Bat Kid made the news. Over 10,000 people took part, and the kid made 5 years cancer-free. Edit for clarity. I wasn't involved. A couple of the commentators were, so please give them your upvotes. Also, please use your coins to support MAW and similar charities. They deserve them, not me. Story 24. Wasn't weird or anything, but one of my friends had leukemia in 8th grade, and her wish was to meet Adam Sandler. So she got to spend the day on set of The Longest Yard with him. Story 25. My partner's nephew had cancer when he was younger. He asked the Make-A-Wish people for an Xbox, his dad, and even the Make-A-Wish person were like, "Are you sure? We could have the entire family go to Disney in America if you want." And he's like, "Nah, I want an Xbox." Luckily, and miraculously, he survived, so we can laugh about it now. Story 26. This wasn't Make-A-Wish. It was a local radio station, but I swear every single part of this is true. I probably still have the master tape. Around 25 years ago, in the mid-90s, in the town I lived in up in the far northwest of Scotland, there was a community radio station. We were trying to set up a local radio station, so we had a 6-week run, using borrowed equipment from Moray Firth Radio to gauge popularity and interest. Now, the first program in the evening after the news was one run by a couple of high school kids. We'd get a few kids in, they'd record a few idents and stuff, we'd run the idents, then at 5 past 5 their show would go up. Tunes they liked, shout-outs to their friends, that kind of thing. They love it, word it. They had a blast. Just tremendous fun. Now there was one wee guy who was a wheelchair user who wanted to do a program, but he couldn't get into the studio because it wasn't wheelchair accessible. It was up a long flight of stairs in the old nurses' accommodation in the local hospital, and there aren't many wheelchair user nurses, and certainly not in the 50s when the hospital was built. He couldn't even be carried up the stairs because he had severe spinal problems that meant that his back, chest, and internal organs were pretty squashed, and he had to be moved very carefully. He was one very sick wee boy, and there was no way he was getting up to the studio. He was totally out of luck on that one. No, he wasn't though, was he? Because it occurred to me, he could tape his program with one of the portable recorders we had, little Marantz high-speed cassette recorder, give me a track listing, and I'd cut it together, play it to him, and if he was happy, we'd play it out for him. He wouldn't get to do it live, but next best thing, eh? So we did. I dropped off the tape recorder, microphone, and so on, and a day or so later I collected it from him with his running order, track list, and a stack of CDs. Perfect. He even sounded like he'd really bashed on his script and sounded pretty good. Copy the tape to 1 or 4, copy the tunes to 1 or 4, edit it down, and boom. Except, he had a cold. A snuffly, snottery cold. Every sentence was punctuated with snotty noises. I can tell you now that A is about waxon, that long on 3/3/4 inch per second, 1/4 tape. And also cats absolutely love to play with all this brown ticker tape confetti you're flooding the bedroom, where my editing gear was with, and there were dozens of them. 18 hours of cutting, sticking, redubbing, finding a bit of dead air just the right tone to fill the gap, cutting, sticking. But when his program went to air, he sounded fucking amazing. Story 27. I have incurable cancer, but I'm an adult. I've been put in touch with a charity who helps out people in my position. Normally, it's not a Make-A-Wish type of thing. They just pay for a holiday or something. But I have told them that if I'm still here after COVID, and if Bill Burr does another world tour, I'd like to meet him. They responded pretty positively, saying they'd see what they could do. Haha. I'm not holding my breath, but it would be pretty cool if it happened. Edit 1. Wow, this took off. Thanks so much for the upvotes, awards, comments, offers of help, and offers to get me to an actual upcoming Bill Burr show. I couldn't believe it. 2. I am in Australia and currently can't just pop over to the USA because of COVID, cancer treatment, and regular life stuff. This is why I said if Bill Burr does another world tour. He's been here before, so post-COVID, there is a good chance he'll come again. 3. When I could no longer work as a train driver, they for some reason don't want people with brain tumors in charge of 1,000 people's lives, I had to semi-retire. Instead, I published my own children's book as a new career that I can pick up or put down easily depending on how I'm going with treatment. So feel free to check it out. Story 28. In Wizard 101, there's a quest with an NPC named Brandon, named after a Make-A-Wish kid who played the game, and his request was to design a side quest for the game. You meet Brandon, and go help him clear out this dungeon with two really fucking hard bosses was a lot of fun. At the end, you get a gem you can socket that lets you summon Brandon into battle as a follower. Pretty cool. Not sure what ended up happening to Brandon, but it's really cool that thousands of PPL have gotten to enjoy being a part of his wish TBH. Story 29. I used to be a wish granter, and one kid wished for his parents to become citizens. They were illegal, and it was a constant source of anxiety for the kid that they could be deported. Unfortunately, despite the name May W can't grant everything, and they did try, got a lawyer and everything, but it wasn't possible. More than 50% of wishes are Disney, though. Edit. Being a wish granter is a volunteer job, and I highly recommend it for anyone looking for a volunteer role. You get to ask the child their wish, and you organize the going away wish party. Edit. You guys have latched onto the going away party. 1. It's a common misconception, but most wish kids don't die. See my below comment. 2. They get a send-off party. Word it however you want, haha, but it's a party before they go on their wish trip. A lot of parents use it to celebrate everything the child has overcome and put up pictures of them in treatment, etc. It is a send-off, though not to end-of-life you mind and gutter people, to Disney World or wherever they want to go. Story 30. Since OP wants wishes that were granted, my nephew got a family trip to Costa Rica for his wish. Zip lines, beaches, they had a blast. My nephew wasn't terminal. He needed brain surgery for seizures, and the stress of the surgery did a number on him mentally. Story 31. I am the kid in this case. I didn't have cancer, but at the time, my heart was just not doing so well. So, since I kind of qualified for Make-A-Wish, I was considering two options at the time: a dog pet-friendly restaurant or a camper. I decided to go with the camper, since I can't control my body temperature and overheat very easily, so I couldn't do tent camping. Now, I am happily camping as I write this answer here. Story 32. I had a coworker at my student job in college who had leukemia as a child. He wished to be in the Iditarod, so they flew his family to Alaska, and he got to meet all the dogs and ride in a sled for a leg of the race. If I remember correctly, he also got a husky puppy. He was 20 when I met him. I was a couple of years older and graduated college and never saw him again. The leukemia came back and he died in 2016. I don't think he was much older than 25. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. I hope heaven is real just for you, Ben. Story 33-1. To be a merman, a boy mermaid. He got a tail and swam in the giant tank with other mermaids at the aquarium. 2. To play football with the red team, no pro or college preference, just had to be red. USC made it happen. 3. To be a cool kid. Got a limo ride to the mall, red carpet entrance with cheering fans, signed autographs, shopping spree for clothes. 5 years old. So cute and very cool. 4. To be Robin, not Batman. He said he wasn't ready for that. Went on an epic adventure fighting crime with Batman. Story 34. I was a cancer kid, so know quite a few people who went through the process. I went to Yellowstone to camp and see a wild buffalo. I also volunteered at my local wish-granting foundation. One very young girl wanted to go on a hunting trip. They sent her and her dad to a hunting lodge where she ended up breaking the lodge record for the largest buck ever shot. She wanted the entire thing stuffed. To this day in her house there is a massive deer, body and all, standing in the living room. Another kid really wanted to eat bugs because he was a really big fan of the Survivor shows. They had a chef come in and cook bugs from all around the world in various ways. He really enjoyed it. I also just want to say that a ton of kids want to go meet a WWE pro wrestler, and they're normally the kindest people. A lot of kids want to meet celebrities, and they only give them 5 minutes, but the wrestlers really try to make an experience. John Cena is great. Apparently, Robin Williams was also the best wish granter. He would take the family out to eat, pretend to be the genie, take the kids to stores and buy them things, and if he was in their town, he would try and visit. I never knew anyone personally that met him, but the president of the foundation said they very much mourned his loss because he was so terrific for so many of their kids and their families. Story 35. I'm a MA volunteer. The volunteers get to do all the fun stuff, like meet with the families, get the kids excited about their wish, we send little gifts and stuff along the way, and then be there when the wish is granted. We don't have to do any of the boring admin stuff. I have a little girl right now whose original wish was a unicorn, 6YO with severe epilepsy, has like 15 seizures a day, and has been through like 10 surgeries already. She wasn't having any of that fake stuff, like a stuffed animal or a costume. She insisted for weeks on a unicorn. That one was hard to manage. She's getting a cat. Story 36. My cousin was a Make-A-Wish kid. He loved golf, like had a scholarship to go play college. He loved it so much. He got to meet and play a round of golf with Payne Stewart. Unfortunately, he died not too long after that. Fuck cancer. ETA. Stuart Payne to Payne Stewart. Story 37. I shot an internal promotional video for Make-A-Wish once. I got to read through a big book of wishes they had granted. Some of them were so extravagant and amazing, family vacations, celebrity meetings, and then I saw a 3-year-old who wished for a banana split for breakfast, and that's what they gave him. No one was like, "Ayo, wish higher." Story 38. I was approached by a similar organization who wanted to arrange a day for a kid to shadow a veterinarian. I'm just a small animal veterinarian with a small hospital, so I found it odd that I'd be approached. I said yes. Who TF would say no? And we picked a day and had our regular patients in the hospital, and the kid got to watch us do our thing for a day. We gave him a lab coat and a stethoscope and let him tag along and see x-rays and ultrasounds and watch surgeries. I brought my dog in so he could try the ultrasound on her. He seemed to enjoy it. It wasn't a terribly strange request, really. It just seems like my day-to-day isn't something anyone would consider their dream experience. Story 39. This one kid really want to meet his favorite comedian. For legal reasons, they can't say who was first or second pick because they declined. But it was super awkward having to ask him what his third favorite comedian was. He settled on Daniel Tosh. Story 40. Make-A-Wish kid here. Asked for a drawing tablet. Got it recently and it's amazing. My cancer's come back though, so rip. Edit. This got a lot more attention than I expected. Thank you all. Here's a link to my art for those who wanted to see it. Story 41. I stayed at an Airbnb in rural Victoria, Australia, and they had this indoor half-pipe. My boyfriend at the time loves skateboarding, so we were very interested why this older couple had a skate ramp in their backyard, in the middle of nowhere. Turns out their son had cancer and that's what he wished for. He made a full recovery. Story 42. Wasn't exactly in the trenches, but as a bystander I overheard, "To go to prom and look as pretty as my big sister" was requested, and that had stuck with me for 15 years. A few years ago, she showed up on a local online news article, recognizing her accomplishments as prom queen with a scholarship to boot. Edit. Jesus, I fixed it. Are you happy yet? Story 43. I was a Make-A-Wish child in my province. I've had brain cancer since 12 and still have it today. My wish initially going to meet the cast from Hawaii, 5-0 at Hawaii, but then I ended up also wanting to get this MSI Aegis pre-built gaming PC. When I told them I wanted that, they said, "You sure?" Then I don't remember what happened, but it wasn't until I was 16 when I got my wish for a VR gaming setup, and I built my PC at Canada Computers right before the pandemic and the GPU shortage. Feels good. And as of now, my treatment is stable and I have only gone through radiotherapy 2 times. Only thing is, there isn't much space in my room, so having the base requirements for a VR play area is kinda sad. Hopefully I can get a bigger area though, because I like playing in VR since it's nice. Story 44. I was a chef at a fancy steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida. One day my proprietor came to me and said, "This is Stacy, the new girl she'll be training with you." I look over and it's this adorable little girl in bright pink chef coat. I babysat my little cousins at the time, so I was actually pretty used to entertaining 10-year-old girls at the time. So I showed her the ropes. We made all kinds of stuff that were on the surface kind of random: candied bacon, cornbread, prosciutto-wrapped boursin cheese stuffed asparagus, a sweet tea brined chop, a sorrel garnish salad type thing, and some other cool garnishes. We were having fun. I then made a puree out of the cornbread, let her plate up the dish a few different ways to show how you can play with ingredients and height to showcase different parts of the dish. She had a blast. It was only at the end when the father came up to me in tears that I realized what was going on. In the moment, I was a little upset because nobody told me. But I realized after it was for the best. I probably would not have been as bright and vibrant with the lessons had I have known. But it was a fulfilling experience for sure. I hope their family is doing well. Side note. I have reworked and reran the dish as a special a few times in memory of that day. It was that impactful. Story 45 IDK, if anyone's posted it yet. But a weird one that is awesome was Jay Harmer. His Make-A-Wish was to meet his favorite YouTuber, Nerdcubed. Granted, and they made hilarious YouTube videos until he passed a few months later. Absolute unit and of a sense of humor. I still go check his Twitter every now and again. Story 46. I helped host a visit to a planetarium by a kid whose wish was to go to the moon. The front office folks thought I could just give her a personal tour of the planetarium and show her some nice high-resolution visuals, but I thought she deserved better than that. I commissioned a jeweler friend and meteorite enthusiast to make a silver crescent moon necklace, which he graciously donated to the cause, and I donated a small lunar meteorite from my own collection. It was a gorgeous necklace, very much to the credit of my friend's artistry and generosity. We couldn't take her to the moon, so we gave it to her instead. She was thrilled, but later said her real highlight of the trip was the astronaut ice cream. Ah, kids. Edit. Thanks for the awards, kind Redditors. Story 47. Not Make-A-Wish, but the amount of dogs my ex used to smuggle into hospital when she was a nurse was truly amazing. Just because a dying person would want to see their little furry friend one more time, they usually would pass within a day having had cuddles with their little companion. Even though surrounded by family, it was as though they were just waiting to see old hairy legs one more time before moving on. Story 48. I didn't use my wish for 18 years because I have sickle cell anemia, and that condition doesn't have a cure. I never knew what I wanted to do. I always knew it was a lot of power, because I was a really self-aware kid. I ended up giving a few Nintendo Switches to the hematology ward in the hospital I spent so much time in. I never told anyone in real life about this cause I think it's a pretty weird and personal wish. Edit. Oh my god. 1,600 likes and so many awards. I never thought anything I'd post on Reddit would even get 200 upvotes. I'm really antisocial probably because of my upbringing. And as mentioned, I've never told anyone in real life this. So all the kind words really mean the fucking world to me. Like I'm so overwhelmed. Thank you all so much for the support. And I'm doing pretty well in life these days. Thanks so much again. Story 49. Not an employee. I was a Make-A-Wish kid when I was 17. The cutoff is 18. And I wished to go get tattooed by this guy out in Rome. I figured they would say no, but they were cool with it, contacted the guy, who was super happy to oblige, and flew myself, my family, and my best friend at the time out to Rome for a week and paid for the tattoo. Coolest experience of my life so far. Edit. Here it is, the tattoo. Story 50. Not an employee, but I got to do a wish. I went to the largest anime convention in the Netherlands by limousine, and they all thought I was some kind of special guest LMAO. Story 51. My daughter was a Make-A-Wish kid. She asked to go to Australia to meet the Wiggles. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to travel that far. We live in the US, health-wise. She made a second wish to meet Captain America. We never told Cap that he was a backup wish after the Wiggles were a no-go. LOL. Story 52. Not Make-A-Wish, but I got my wish from charity called Merlin's Magic Wand. I was very poorly as a young child, to the point I was hospital a lot, due to a non-cancerous tumor on the back of my head. I wanted to go to Legoland for years, since I got my first Lego set. Well, they gave me and my family a day out to Legoland we would never forget. Story 53. I'm not a Make-A-Wish employee, but a kid at my church a long time ago wished to sit in a bathtub full of peach-colored loofahs. The soft ball kind, obviously, not the hard sponge-like ones. He got it. And the church bulletin had a picture of this kid smiling like a maniac in a huge bathtub full of loofahs, so I guess he was happy with his wish. Story 54. My sister got a Make-A-Wish when she was 17. She has always wanted to be a vet and wanted to look behind the scenes at a zoo. Long story short, we got to pet the elephants and the rhinos. Surprisingly, they are very cuddly and like human contact. Story 55. YouTuber Billiam used his wish to get a full kit of video equipment because he enjoyed being creative and wanted to have the technical ability to keep creating things. He still uses the equipment to create the videos for his YouTube channel and later made a video about his experience with MAW. Story 56. One of my closest friend had a second bout of cancer in his mid-20s. It was his dream to join the military, but due to having cancer in his teens and major spinal surgery related to it, he couldn't. He asked to meet Don Shipley, the guy who runs the civilian Navy SEAL camp in the South, and also regularly calls out and tracks down phoned Navy SEALs. Don wasn't able to travel up to meet him, but Don called him, and they had a great conversation. He told him, "I hope you beat this thing and then the beers are on me." Unfortunately, he didn't beat this bout of cancer and passed away at home with his family. I and another friend took turns helping take care of him near the end and mostly just give him company in his last days. He had a hospice nurse as well. I miss him still. Love you, buddy. R.I.P. Edit. Wow, thanks for the love. Everyone, all I didn't think of it as doing anything extraordinary. I hope we'd all do that for someone we love. Just spend time with them in their last days. He had his friends, family, rockstar hospice nurses, and a morphine PCA to give him the most painless passing possible. Obligatory plea. I am an ICU nurse myself, and I mean it when I say I've seen a lot of people not be allowed to pass the way they should. Dying and death sucks. There's nothing meant to be or God needed another angel about it. It is our responsibility to give our loved ones the best death possible. I call that a beautiful death, because I've seen ugly, needlessly painful, drawn-out ones. Story 57. My daughter had a genetic neuromuscular disease with an average life expectancy of 24 months. Most children with this disease are above average intelligence. This child was extremely intelligent. Most children are putting only 2 words together, but mine was saying 7 to 9 word sentences. Make-A-Wish typically wants the child to be 3 years old, because most children younger than 3 are not able to express their wish. She was 2, 5 years old, and able to tell them exactly what she wanted. She wanted to meet Barney and Baby Bop. Fortunately, they were owned by Disney, and we got to meet them at Give Kids the World. And it was great that we got to go to Disney because she also loved and got to meet all the princesses. She loved the parades and Animal Kingdom too. Another plus, my mother was in a short remission with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and was able to make the trip with us. My mom died 2 years after the trip. My daughter died 13 years after the trip. Yes, she lived to be 15 years old.